In the same manner that we waste our potential when we go to the gym and lift weights, since we miss what the body is really capable of achieving when the muscles are used to do incredible things. We also waste our potential when we bark up the wrong tree, or when we try to convince people of something that either they aren't ready to hear or that we aren't ready to present, or both, which is what happens in essentially 99% of the cases today. Which is also another reason why I'm making these videos. It's a much better use of my energy and potential to address anyone who wishes to listen than it is to use the same amount of energy or more, because the other person is arguing back, to try to convince a single person of something they aren't even ready to hear. And so yes, it's insanity to drink any other water than distilled water. It's even more insane to eat anything that contains sodium chloride. Sodium chloride is a protoplasmic poison, and Washington, in his work on the zodiac salts, was misled. He did not present any method, so we can only guess as to, well, what he would have probably done was probably what all alchemists have always done, which is to bring things down to salts, which invariably means killing whatever it is that is being chemically dissected. So finding sodium chloride in ashes of blood does not infer either that sodium chloride was in the living organism or that sodium chloride was useful to the living organism. And putting sodium chloride in an in vitro bunch of cells or bacteria and watching them use the sodium chloride to do something useful does not infer that they would not have been better off without it. Just because life is intelligent doesn't mean, for example, hitting somebody in the face with a baseball bat will trigger repair. That, according to the white coats and the mechanistics, that is basis for writing a paper that says that hitting people in the face with a baseball bat is beneficial because it triggers healing. Life is intelligent and it responds to shock, it responds to trauma, it responds to poisoning in the most intelligent way possible. So yes, people have sodium chloride in their body because it's the smartest thing to do with it is to store it away in a place where it won't kill the host immediately, so that he can live a little bit longer and maybe eventually realize that if he drinks distilled water and recycle all of his blood plasma, that it will come out, and that all of his wrinkles and all of the body fat that he had will vanish, and that his aging will start to reverse, and that his mind will finally be sober, and he will, perhaps for the first time in his life, experience sobriety. Most people today have never actually experienced sobriety. They were born from a poisoned mother and a poisoned womb. They were shown to poison themselves from day one. They were drinking poisoned milk and then eating poisoned food. So people have never actually been sober, most people. It takes several weeks to purge out the poison that has accumulated over a lifetime. And before that poison has been purged out completely, sobriety is still out of reach. It gets closer and closer. The clarity gets greater and greater. But only when all of the poison has been expunged will sobriety be experienced. So the perceiver creates the world with his perception. Therefore, to blame the world for a lack of change is really to blame oneself for a lack of change in perception. If people aren't getting it, that's just a reflection of the fact that we aren't getting it, that we should just recapitulate our traumas, which is what we're projecting out into the world, which is what we're seeing as a problem out there, when in fact the problem is a problem of perception. So that's why the book of Revelation talks of an apocalypse, which is what happens when change happens. Change, real, deep, meaningful change, is an apocalypse. It's a revealing. It's what happens when we realize something that was previously obscured or hidden. And so it talks of transitions. It talks of seals, meaning different stages of transition of that great change happening in man. And so because man is a reflection of the world, because man creates the world for his own benefit, then the world will also go through these changes. And yes, it will happen in a way, in a collective sort of, not for everyone, but for a lot of people. A lot of people will go through this transition, this revealing. Mostly because, or only because, some people are going through it on their own, with their own power, and using their own will and intent, which was given to them, albeit by the bestower of awareness, which they call the great ego in the Toltec tradition. And so, the great ego, the bestower of awareness, awaits for those who have not been able to forge their soul. Those who have been given a gift, the ego's gift, the chance to compress their luminous fibers, their luminous layers into a cohesive, enduring consciousness that can go on when the organic death takes place. So all of these techniques are not an end in themselves. Drinking Shivambu is not an end in itself. Health is not an end in itself. Those things are platforms that give us more clarity, that give us more power. And power is all that we can use to forge our soul. Without power, we are powerless. Thanks for watching, Infinite Magical Beings, and see you all on the other side.